The Shellman is a story of the Christos Experience. The book called Windows of the Mind by Glasking tells how, without drugs, hypnosis or trance, anyone can travel in time and space and have lucid dreaming while still conscious. The Christos Experience gives a new understanding of the twilight between memory and consciousness. I did it at a psychotherapy weekend in Kangaroo Valley near the Illawarra. I had the most amazing experience. A facilitator guides people into groups of 3. One person who will be carrying out lucid dreaming, and the others will ask questions whilst the person is dreaming. The 2 assistants simultaneously massage the third eye and also your feet. The person who is dreaming is asked to imagine their body is expanding, stretching out from the feet and the head. The facilitator then asks the dreamer to imagine they're outside of their own house. I saw a bright shining obelisk alongside my house first of all. The facilitator then asked us to imagine that we're on the roof of our house and to describe what we saw from the roof. This is the story of my journey in the Christos Experience. From my roof I could see a church spire and the Blue Mountains to the west of Sydney. As soon as I became aware of the Blue Mountains, I seemed to fly quickly to that area, and as I flew towards the Blue Mountains, they transformed into the mountains of New Guinea. I became aware that I was alongside a group of Highlander people with things through their noses. These people were jabbering that I shouldn't go down into the valley beyond the clouds. In the valley we could hear the noise of explosions and flashes of light. I was different to these people, and so I decided to move down. I seemed to be flying over the countryside, and as I went down, I became the pebbles in water reflecting. As I got closer, I realized that they were the helmets of soldiers, thousands of soldiers' helmets, and that I was traveling in a jeep. They were battle-weary soldiers returning from battle. During this whole experience, my mind kept slipping from a high viewpoint down to a lower viewpoint. The next thing that happened was that a large bomber type thing came overhead, but a sort of organic thing, a combination of a bomber and a fish. And as I looked up, I saw what I thought were bomb bays underneath the belly of the plane. But again, there was a juxtaposition, and instead of looking up into the bomb bays of the aircraft, I was in fact looking down into a grave. And I became aware that the grave I was looking into was my own. I was looking down at bodies being discarded into a grave, and started to wonder about the callousness of the act of just discarding these bodies, these cadavers. I realized that I was in fact the spirit of one of these bodies, looking down from above. My body was of no use to me. I was a liberated spirit and nothing could harm me. As soon as I became aware of this reality, a being appeared to me on a sort of spacecraft. This being was androgynous and had a head that looked like a shell. There were no orifices on his head, yet the Shellman, which is what I called him, could communicate with me quite clearly. The Shellman's head radiated colors, and this seemed to be the way that he communicated with me. And when I communicated back, I had no need for speech either. He seemed to understand. He communicated with me, and I heard this.
You seem to be seeing things a lot clearer now, seeing things the way they really are. Would you like to come and see some other things?
I'm still in this room, don't forget, with a lot of other people experiencing lucid dreaming or astral traveling, and I'm talking to my assistants, and I'm describing the Shellman to them. With that, the Shellman took me off into space, looking at wondrous things. At one point we seemed to be looking at a planet, at the edge of mountains and the ocean on the planet. Dark, mysterious mountains that seemed to be volcanoes erupting. The Shellman then decided to take me to another perspective, to see the real. This is when I cracked up, for in fact I was looking at not some wondrous ancient planet way off the cosmos, but the edge of an egg cooking in a frying pan. I laughed and laughed and laughed. This was in fact the cosmic yoke. And the Shellman said, "What do you want to know?" I said, "Let me find out the meaning of life." Then I heard this.
Okay, I will take you to someone who could explain everything you really need to know.
With that, we headed off into space. Didn't seem to worry me. Somehow I didn't have a spacesuit on, but off we went. From a distance, I could see an eye off in space, with two edges of a silver frame framing the eye. I'm told that this is a classic astral traveling image. And then we approached a planet which had beautiful green pastures, and there were huge, absolutely huge creatures, 4 or 5 stories high, like ancient mammoths. The Shellman told me to ask any question I wanted. So I said, what about war? What happens on Earth? The creatures replied in this way.
People, humans, came to us and said, fight us, fight us. We said we are not interested in fighting. They continued to pound on the side on our armored bodies. Their weapons could not penetrate, and they were destroyed by their own weapons. In the end, there was no one left who wanted to fight, and peace came to the universe.
By now the facilitator was saying, come back to Kangaroo Valley, and I started to fly back to Earth, over the mountains, back to the roof of our house. This is the story, a true story of lucid dreaming brought about by using the Christos technique, and I will never forget, even though it happened more than 20 years ago.